If you're trying to decide between San Marcos and Vista, there's about a $50,000 to $100,000 difference depending on what you're looking for. But that's honestly not why most people end up picking the wrong one. Because these two cities are right next to each other, they share the same freeway that cuts them in half, but they live completely different day to day. And we've helped a lot of people and families relocate to both San Marcos and Vista. I can tell you that the people who are happiest didn't necessarily pick one or the other based off price. They picked off the best fit for them and their family. So in this video, I'm gonna break down what you actually get, what it feels like to live in each, and how to know which one is right for you. And let's start with price, because that is probably where everybody starts. When you're looking at the difference in detached homes between San Marcos and Vista, the price gap is pretty big. The median price point in San Marcos right now for a single family home is right at that $1.2 million mark. When you're looking at Vista, it's much less, sitting at $950,000. So yes, Vista is definitely cheaper. That part is true. But here's what most people miss. That gap is not random, and it's actually telling you something. And it's telling you what you're gonna get in either San Marcos or Vista, whether that be newer versus older inventory, a bit more planned versus a bit more mixed as far as developments go, or what the perception and the demand is. And so the real question isn't why is Vista cheaper? It's actually what am I getting or giving up for that difference? And once you understand that, the decision gets way easier. And if you're looking at either San Marcos or Vista right now and figuring out where you actually fit, not just price, but actually lifestyle wise too, well, we've helped a lot of people make that exact move. If you want the breakdown of what's actually available right now, what areas to focus on, and honestly what to avoid, you can reach out to us directly, call, text, or email, because we got your back when making the move here to San Diego. Now let's talk about what your money actually gets you, because this is where things really start to separate. Now in San Marcos, you're gonna find a lot more new construction as it has been developing over these past few years. There has been a huge growth in the past 10 to 15 years, right, in San Marcos. When I was growing up there, it was nothing but a drive-through city. It's starting to become a drive-to city, which we will get into here shortly. You're also gonna find more planned developments, and whether that be some of the older planned developments in the northern section of San Marcos or some of the newer planned developments down south, there's just a lot more structure compared to a lot of Vista. It's also going to be a lot more HOA heavy, so a lot of neighborhoods are definitely going to have HOAs. Now there's some certain pockets within these planned communities that were built in like the 80s that actually are planned units, tract neighborhoods, but no HOAs. So there are a few of those as well, but you're also going to find a little bit more turnkey in certain areas. The northern section of San Marcos tends to be a little bit older, where you're going to find some 60s and 70s homes, a lot of single story homes. We just helped some clients move in there last year into one of those older communities, but they're awesome, a little bit more spread out. They have the community parks, the little pocket parks up there. Their kids are loving it. They're really close to the schools, so it's a great little neighborhood, and that's a lot what you're going to find. You're going to find some infill communities as well where they're newer construction. On the west side of San Marcos, you're going to find Santa Fe Hills, which is a master planned community. That is one of the only bigger master plan communities in the newer era that is in the northern section. Once you go to the southern section, that's where all the development is happening. That's where you're gonna find the new downtown area of San Marcos, North City, some new construction, the Hill District, Mission Circle, Discovery Hills, and on the other side of the hill is San Alejo Hills, kind of a community within itself. Newer master plan community built in the early 2000s, a self-contained kind of community. And so you kind of know exactly what you're getting in San Marcos. In Vista, you're gonna find a bit more variation. Similar to San Marcos, you have the northern section and you have the southern section. We'll start with the southern section. That is one of the only master plan communities in all of Vista. And we have helped people move there and they really like it. It's called Shadow Ridge. It's all surrounding Shadow Ridge Golf Course. Now, once you go out from there, for the most part, is a lot of variation from different styles of homes, different types of homes, different lot sizes. You're not going to find all those just lots, you know, box, box, box. Some of them have unique like pie shapes. Some are going to be a little bit more spread out. You do have some areas that you're going to find some land. There is a little bit of semi-rural throughout this area of Vista as well. And there's also certain areas of Vista that haven't been touched or really developed since they were built in the early 60s. So some of those older areas, there's just the original infrastructure. It's a little bit older as a whole. You're going to find little pockets of that as well. Main Street Vista, downtown, that's been there forever. There's been a little bit of revitalization over the past few years. As you've seen some growth in there, most of the growth in that area is apartments. So you're not really going to find condos or townhomes over there for sale. But the main areas is master plan community to the south, which is Shadow Ridge, In the north, you have a little bit area called Foothills. You also have Buena Creek in that area. So comparing San Marcos to Vista, San Marcos, you're gonna find a little bit more of those planned units. Once you get out of Shadow Ridge, it's a little bit sporadic from there. So San Marcos is a little more planned and predictable, where Vista gives you a little more flexibility. Now let's make it real for a second. Let's say you're shopping in the $900 to $1.1 million range here in North County. In San Marcos, that's honestly gonna limit you mostly to the northern part of San Marcos, north of the 78 freeway. Some of those older communities where they are the tract neighborhoods, but like I said, they're like 60s and 70s tract neighborhoods. Because if you're looking at the southern portion of San Marcos, there's a huge price gap between 92069, which is the north zip code, and 92078. The northern section median price point is closer to that $1 million mark. Once you go south, that's where you're gonna find a lot of the newer communities. Median price points are about $1.3 million. And if 1.3 is your price point in southern San Marcos, that's where you're gonna likely get into the HOAs. That's where you're gonna get into some of the newer construction. That's where you're gonna start seeing smaller lots. And that is where you're seeing the most growth in all of North County, San Diego. Now, when you're looking at Vista, you have more options. You can definitely get into that Shadow Ridge area if you do like that HOA feel. You like having the HOA pool, bringing the kids down there. You like the little pocket parks, and you do like kind of that track neighborhood feel. But you're also going to have access to the other parts of Vista once you get into the foothills and the surrounding areas down there, where you're looking at more land. You're looking at a little more spread out. You're looking at a little more variation, maybe some homes that need some updates, but there's going to be a lot more choices in that Vista area compared to San Marcos. Now, this is the part you won't see online, but you will feel it immediately, because it's not just about the house that you live in, it's what your day-to-day life actually looks like. San Marcos definitely has a little bit more planned feel, and that planned feel is going to continue as they are building out San Marcos. Right around the area called North City, that is definitely going to be the new downtown of San Marcos. Currently, there's really no downtown central hub to go out and about in San Marcos. You're gonna find a lot of little, commercial centers, a lot of little retail spots spread out through town. But as far as like that downtown strip, that is something that San Marcos is lacking. North City, the whole area that they are doing a ton of build out, that is definitely going to become the new downtown. You used to have Restaurant Row, that's now being built into townhome community. If you go to San Marcos's website, one thing that they call themselves is San Parcos. There's new parks coming. There's 2 new parks, one in the Hill District area and one elsewhere throughout San Marcos, but you will find a lot of parks. Even like I mentioned before, there's an area called Nob Hill, which is one of the older communities that our clients moved in. There's a bunch of pocket parks. So there's some private parks in there. There's some, green space between the homes. And at least in the southern section of San Marcos, they also incorporated huge trail systems. So when San Alejo Hills got built out in the early 2000s, they incorporated over 18 miles of trails within that community. Now, some of those trails do connect to Discovery Hills, to Lake San Marcos, to some of the surrounding communities where you can get out and about, you can cruise around. They recently also opened a new park called South Lake that has a nice little trail around it. And some of the most growth is happening right around Cal State San Marcos. So Cal State San Marcos used to be a basically commuter school, where nobody really lived around there. Everybody who was, if you're living in San Diego, going to Cal State San Marcos, you were driving from where you were living. Now it is becoming a little bit more of a powerhouse in the college scene. Not quite there yet, but as they are building out, like I said, North City, there's a ton of student housing over there. As they built out some of the surrounding communities, Rancho Tesoro, there's a bunch of big condo complexes around there. It has just added to the infrastructure and the build out around Cal State San Marcos. And so San Marcos feels like a city that is still being built, but actually in a good way. When you get to Vista, you're gonna find a little more character in the communities, in the housing types, from Main Street compared to a lot of the other downtowns around North County, San Diego. They don't have the infrastructure as much as San Marcos as far as parks, as far as trails, but a lot of these neighborhoods that have been here for a long time. So a lot of the older neighborhoods. Southern Vista has some of the best breweries in all of North County, San Diego. It's one of the brewery hubs here. It's actually in a commercial district of Vista. As you cruise around, you could find 4, 5, 6 different little breweries within a few mile radius. A lot of breweries are within a business park in the southern section of Vista. We call it the Sycamore Corridor, where you can find 8, 9, 10, 12 breweries within a few mile radius. And so Vista as a whole is a little more raw, but that's what a lot of people like about it. This is where people usually start making the decision. So if you're watching this and you're thinking, I'm more of a San Marcos person, or Vista actually fits me better, reach out to us and we can show you what that actually looks like with real homes, real numbers, and what's happening right now. But who is each city actually built for? And this might be the most important part of the video, because this is where everything starts to click. And at the end of the day, it isn't necessarily which city is better. It's about which one actually fits how you want to live. So let's start with San Marcos. San Marcos is typically going to attract buyers who want things a little more put together. You like newer homes, or actually something that might feel newer. You don't mind an HOA if it means everything looks clean and consistent. And you want parks, schools, and amenities nearby. A lot of people we help in San Marcos are either relocating families or buyers who just want something easy. Easy meaning not a ton of projects, not a lot of unknowns. And then you've got the whole education piece too. Cal State University, Palomar College. There's a little bit more energy in that area, whether that matters to you or not. Now, Vista tends to attract a completely different kind of buyer. You don't need everything to be brand new. You're okay with a little bit of variation. You might even prefer it. You like the idea of having options at different price points. A lot of buyers in Vista are either trying to get more for their money, or they don't necessarily just want to pay a premium for stuff they don't need. And they're okay trading a little bit of polish for that. Now let's talk about where each city is going, because that matters a lot more than people think. In San Marcos, like I said, the most growth probably going on in any of the North County cities, with North City being the biggest development right in this whole area, where you're going to find new homes, new infrastructure, like I said, the new downtown, new restaurants, new shops, all that kind of stuff. Now that's a longer project, but they're continuing to build that out. They're also doing other infrastructure projects. The Creek project that used to flood a whole area of San Marcos, they built that all out, new bridges, new ways to get around. And all in all, you're paying a bit of a premium for where San Marcos is heading. Now Vista's seen a little bit of downtown revitalization. Santa Fe's seen a little bit of that building like we mentioned. There's a few infrastructure projects going on here and there. There's definitely some infill communities. We just had somebody reach out who was looking at one of these infill communities where it's maybe 20 to 40 homes. So not these huge master plan communities, but these smaller little developments, a lot of those townhome style. But you're going to find a lot of Vista in its original form, where it's been there a long time. So Vista might not look as polished today, but there's definitely upside there. And depending on your timeline, that could be a really smart play. Now, what about location and commute, right? They're basically sitting right next to each other. They basically are split both by the 78 freeway. San Marcos seems to be a little bit easier to get around, a few more main roads going through to get to the freeways. Now, as they have built out, it's getting more traffic, it's getting more dense. So one of the cons over there, San Marcos tends to have more highly rated schools as well. Vista is going to be a little bit closer to the coast. So all in all, it's going to be a little bit cooler, a little bit easier access to the coast, but depending on where you're living as well. Because as you get to the foothills of Vista, certain other areas of Vista, there's not as many side roads. A lot of side roads, a lot of stop signs, not too many stop lights, but a lot of stop signs. So getting around, you're going to be, stop and go, stop and go. But there's only a very few pockets of Vista that are going to have traffic right around that downtown area, Vista Village area, especially during rush hour. You're going to find some traffic there. Neither is really a hub for jobs. So most people living in either Vista or San Marcos are either working from home or commuting to one of the major areas around here. Carlsbad, Sorrento Valley, Kearny Mesa, downtown San Diego, a few different spots around town. But between either community, your location and commute, depending on which area of the city you are living, can be a lot different. And all in all, it really comes down to your daily routine. And most people start this process thinking it's only a price decision, but it doesn't stay that way for very long. It really turns into a lifestyle decision, because once you start actually touring homes and driving the areas, you realize these two don't actually feel the same. So the goal isn't necessarily to find the better city, it's to find the one that fits how you actually want to live your day-to-day life. So at the end of the day, San Marcos and Vista are right next to each other, but they live very differently depending on your budget and lifestyle. And so if you're serious about moving to San Marcos or Vista, don't stop at this video. Go check out our San Marcos and Vista playlist, which we have links for down in the description. We've got full breakdowns, neighborhood tours, and day in the lifestyle vlogs, so you could really get a feel for the area. And it's going to give you way more clarity than just looking at the numbers.